There's probably going to be some bad language in this, so you might not want to let the kids watch. What's going on, dickheads? Wino's back with the last regular season episode of The Ultimate Fighter 29. We've got the finale to go, which is the best episode of every season. It's just a fight card. Can't wait for that. But this last actual episode just happened. And yeah, let's get into it. So this episode starts with a bit of, parallel thinking from the coaches. You got Volk invites the boys over to him and his team's house that they're staying in while they're out there in Vegas to give them a bit of a change of scenery and cook them up some breakfast. They seem to enjoy that. And then back at the house, I'm sure these happened at different times, but they're putting it together with editing and everything. But I'm talking about in the flow of the episode. Back at the house, we got Team Ortega. And Brian decides to have a bit of a family day because he sees that the boys are a bit homesick and they're missing their family. So he brings his family over, his kids, his brother and his dad, and they have a bit of a cookout too. And look, this was a nice thought from Ortega, but when he was setting up his reasons for why he brought him over, and he's like, oh, the boys seem homesick. They seem like they're missing family. They're missing their kids. So I brought my kids over. I was thinking like, look, if you're homesick, you want to see your own fucking kids, man. You want to see your own girlfriend, your own family. And Trayshawn pretty much summed up what I said in the next kind of scene there. And he's like, oh, I just got all depressed today. And thanks for bringing the kids. And I did feel the family and stuff, but I want to see my girlfriend. I want to see my son. And it's like, yeah, Ortega, like, you think the cure to homesickness is fucking someone else's home? But still, it was a nice gesture from him. Speaking of Trayshawn, throughout the episode we see, like, he is a good dude and he gets along well with the other team. They're having a little freestyle rap and freestyle singing sesh out the back. Look, they were just some boys having some fun. That was all good for them. Wasn't particularly good on anyone's side, but it was good seeing them get in there and have fun. And then later you see a little scene with Gilbert and Trayshawn at the barbecue, and they're both cooking, and they're saying, you don't have to hate each other to fight each other, and they respect each other and everything like that. It's good to see. And we did see that relationship kind of earlier when Gilbert had his first fight, and Trayshawn, even though he's on the other team, was like, I hang out with Gilbert a bit, and I know how good he is, and he picked him to win, even against his own team, even though that guy who was fighting for his team was kind of a last-minute bring-in. Still, Trayshawn and Gilbert seem to have, grown a bit of a bond while this has been going on, and they don't let that get in the way of their fight, which is the fight on this episode. And that's where we're going next, straight to the fight, because as the rest of the season's gone, there's not much else to talk about the rest of the episode. So the fight itself, it was a good one, a slower paced one, and that's very likely because of Trayshawn's style. Man, I've gone 0-4 in the picks. I didn't pick any of those semi-final fights right. But at least that meant Team Volk went 3-1. Now, I picked this one. I picked Gilbert in this one because it seemed like he had more variety. He could take the fight in more places with his grappling and whatnot, but also with his striking. He seemed to be more diverse, and be more active. Whereas Trayshawn, in his fight with Ryder, seemed to be quite slow, quite plodding, very powerful, but didn't have much, emergency about what he was trying to do, and kind of let the fight come to him. And we saw a little bit of that. What I've realised is Trayshawn is one of these slow-paced, fast-twitch type fighters. Your Tyron Woodleys, your Yoel Romeros, to a lesser extent, your Hector Lombards. Probably I only say lesser extent because Hector never figured out the slow part. He was always the hardest dude to fight in one round. But if you could survive that round, he'd be gassed as fuck and you could take over from then. Whereas Yoel and Tyron are similar in their huge power, and they both have great wrestling games as well, like Hector with judo, those two with wrestling. But their power is so threatening that guys don't want to come in on them too hard because they'll get countered and knocked out. But also, their wrestling or grappling is so good that they don't worry about getting taken down either. So that's where I thought Tresean was a little, like I thought he had that slow plodding, high power, but conserve energy style of those guys. But I didn't know if he had the wrestling to keep up with it. And look, we don't have the answer to that yet because Ryder didn't push him enough in their first fight, and neither did Gilbert in this one. And so far it seems like because he's getting respect with those hands. It was a super noticeable power imbalance between Tresean and Gilbert, because Gilbert started out the fight decently, being a lot more active, getting his range well pretty early on, and he had that longer range, so he'd want to play with that against Tresean. And Tresean got a few jabs in, but Gilbert's landing this and that and looking like he's getting confident. And then he came in a little too laissez-faire and copped a check left hook and got dropped in that one shot. So that got Gilbert's respect immediately. Like, he's like, oh shit, I can't be fucking around with Tresean's hands too much. And that slowed things right down because Gilbert was a little worried to engage after that one shot. But he kept going. He started to get his rhythm back a little bit. But as he was, Tresean started landing some real slick, heavy, crisp jabs. Lightning fast with a lot of pop on him. And he got a couple of those in, and you're like, oh, they're a worry. And then it went to a point, I'm pretty sure that him and Gilbert both threw jabs at the same time, and they both landed. But his was just so much stiffer, and he dropped Gilbert again. And I was, oh, fuck. And then as the round went on, this was mainly the story. Like, Tresean had shown he's got all this power, and Gilbert was a little hesitant to engage, but he was working some decent teeps, and he was working some real good leg kicks. There was also a point where he landed one of the leg kicks, and Tresean slaps his leg and baits him in to come in. And part of that could be him shaking it off, but part of that, I think, was also him wanting Gilbert to come in, because Gilbert did throw one and Tresean countered it real well with the right hand. Didn't catch it as cleanly as those other shots that dropped Gilbert, but you can tell that's what he wanted to do. But those leg kicks, I think, were causing some damage, because one, he did that thing trying to bait him in. Then he also kind of hopped up and down on that leg a little bit. And towards the end of the round, Gilbert landed another big one. And yeah, Tresean seemed to be shaking it out somewhat. But that last big leg kick he landed was nowhere near as big as Tresean getting another near knockdown this time. I believe it was... I think it was like a straight right, like pretty much back Gilbert up, and then Tresean hit another left hook as he was going backwards, and it really stumbled him. He didn't go down, but it was looking dangerous. So at the end of this round, we had Gilbert was much more active, but Tresean just landed with so much more power. There was no fucking question who won that round. Then the second round starts, and Gilbert's starting decently. He's coming out pretty strong. He's got the activity, and he's moving forward. And when he's moving forward and pushing Tresean back, Tresean's not looking as effective. So after this initial flurry, I think one of Team Ortega, I think it may have even been Hannah, even said after Gilbert's initial little blitz, he's like, okay, now your turn to come forward. And we did see that. Tresean started stalking forward, and he was throwing with some real intent when he could get in close. He landed a good uppercut, I remember, and he landed some good other shots, but Gilbert was trying to wear it. And I was just thinking to myself, Gilbert needs to be doing the pressuring, because when he's on the back foot, he's got nothing going. At least when he's backing Tresean up, he's landing more of his own shit, plus he's stopping Tresean from doing what Tresean can do. But we saw the catch-22 of that game plan, because just like in the first round, Gilbert got a little lackadaisical in coming in, came in a bit too fast with the hands down, and he got cracked with another check left hook. And the first one dropped him. This one put him out. one shot, check left hook, knockout. We have ourselves a new finalist. Trey Sean is taking on Battle in the fucking finals. And look, those finals are looking like good fights. Ricky versus Brady should be fun. Battle versus Trey Sean should be fun. Fucking Barboza versus Giga Chikadze. Edson versus Giga as the main event on that card looks amazing. And I don't know if you guys have seen the fucking lineup for the Volk versus Ortega card, but that's a fucking cracker too. You got Volk versus Ortega. You got Valentina versus Lauren Murphy, which, look, it's another title fight. I expect Valentina to fucking go ham on Murphy's ass. But I'm glad to see Murphy get the shot, at least. She really deserves it. And I always love seeing my girl Val fight. And then we got Nick fucking Diaz fighting Robbie Lawler. The rematch. Years in the making. And we haven't seen Diaz in years either. So Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler on that card. That's clearly a pay-per-view card, but fuck me, I'm looking forward to that one. And then the Ultimate Fighter finale card, not happening this Sunday Australia time, next Sunday Australia time. We got Gastelum versus Cannonier to get through this Sunday, and then Ultimate Fighter is the next one. So, you know what? Maybe this time next week, when I'd usually do the show review, I might do a little preview for the card coming up. Have my picks for who I think's going to win. Off the top of my head, I'm probably picking Ricky over Brady and Battle over Trey Sean, but I might change my mind. I might have a rewatch of those fucking fights through the week and see if I still think that. And I'll also try to give you a little prediction on Barboza versus Chikadze. And if I see any other, good bets on the card, might mention that too. So yeah, that's to look forward to next week. But as for now, that's the regular season done. We just got the finale to go. And as a season, I thought it was decent. It was pretty boring, the reality show bits, as has been the case with Tough for a long time. But the fights were great. So what more can you ask for?